So this is Hostipal, coming to you from a random hotel in Amsterdam. Hostipal off Hostipal grounds. So yeah, currently in Europe, in Amsterdam, going to be doing a bit of travelling around. Then probably loop back here. So hence why I'm in this random place with this weird thing on the wall. But yeah, so I had to kind of change the setup. So this is where we're currently at. I had to leave a lot of some of my favourite synths and equipment behind, but you got to do what you got to do. I would have started off with kind of stock instruments and different things on like Ableton, and then you then got like MIDI keyboards, Launchpad, a few other things, and was doing a DJ controller and was doing kind of live looping and things like that. And then a bit of a slow descent into synthesis, but yeah, got a few kind of crappy things, a few bits of shite that don't really use anymore, and barely got any use of, to be honest, before making my first big purchase. And by big purchase, I don't actually mean very big. It's kind of small. One of Mark's favourites. The old Volca keys. You know them, you love them. Everyone's favourite. Kind of from the Volca onwards, that's kind of, and especially during lockdown, well, it kind of just expanded slowly and slowly till I had like a ridiculous number of synths. None of which on their own were too expensive, but they definitely add up. I will say gas is definitely a real thing. Recently decided I was gonna venture off, do a bit of travels around Europe, so kind of had to slim down the setup. It's kind of what I have now. Just before heading off, I did a jam outside, so I was decided I'd kind of keep that same setup so I could do, if I wanted, kind of outdoor jams. And I think there's enough to build kind of tracks, because I have the model samples is kind of the brains of the operation, so I use that for all the percussion, and in a way to kind of to drive the track in terms of nearly like scenes, because the rest, whether it's the Volca keys or the old Micro Freak, I tend to kind of mess around with them, maybe improvise a bit where they're less kind of structured. The model samples keeps me focused in on kind of what I'm doing and shit. Kind of the main one I'm missing, I'd say, is the Crave, the Behringer Crave. I do quite like what that can do. Good solid bass sounds, good arps, good leads. But yeah, I had to cut it, unfortunately. But that's pretty what, when I kind of settle in somewhere, if I have a postal address of some sort, I'll pretty try to get someone to send over the Crave. Then, well, as a piano player, I was tossing between bringing this and what do I have? The Reface CP, which like I'm a big fan of, but in terms of cutting down a setup, I feel like there's more I can do with this, because I have I kind of use plugins in Ableton, so I'm going to be using this for some key sounds, and then obviously I can drive some soft synths, and then if I feel like it, also do longer than 16 step sequences on this. Or I do like to also run a Volca sequence while also hitting it with a key step sequence, because then they kind of interact and you get like a cool kind of weird thing going on. Then I brought these as well, but I might have to leave these with a friend on my travels, just because packing light ain't easy, and it was a bit of a struggle getting here from the airport, I will say. So that's kind of like that setup. Then over here I also have an old DJ mixer. I do a show for Irish radio every week, so need to keep this with me, even though this, to be honest, is the most awkward size in terms of packing. But you know, does the job. And yeah, then I just have the cheap old kind of Behringer interface. And then, well, that's it. Use a gaming laptop to kind of drive it all, because cheaper than Macs, and you can get like a lot of power in it. Here's the shitloads of wires. Loads of wires to. I have more over here. Wires are a pain in the hole. Not the best for wire management. I've only been here a few days, but I had planned on setting these all up. But you know, been busy doing other things. I did actually wake up during the night and this guy kind of freaked me out. Can actually see, can I get this all running? Put a time lapse on and see if we can make something. Alright, so that should be the setup pretty much. Actually didn't take as long as I thought it would, so I decided to even add in the sound. Activated lights, always good fun. No studio is complete without some lights. So I'll just open Mr. Ableton. So yeah, this should be the so this is the Hout jam that I was doing. So like I was saying, this is we have all the different drums. So obviously your kick, bit of snare, some shaker type thing, and some breaks. I actually quite like chopping up breaks on the model samples. Just have to do it by the number. Then some weird vocal chops. This is actually it's actually kind of traditional Irish singing. So I've just chopped into a little. And then we have here, this is just a micro freak doing a nice little sequence. And then yeah, for that low jam I was just sounds a bit mad at the moment, but that's I was just using the Falca keys for that. As I said, don't judge my wire management. In case you get bored of those, I'm going to try and use the what's called the key step. As a piano player, that's kind of my favourite plugin. Even though it's not weighted keys, I have weighted keys back home, but can't be carting them around. But yeah, as as piano sounds go, like it's the best, it's the closest you can get, I kind of feel, because you can, if you go into the settings, you can change the action and everything on it. So that's yeah, piano tech. So if you look at here, the velocity curve, you can change, and you go through a process so that you can accurately kind of, even on a keyboard like this, you'd be able to do it. But yeah, when I'm traveling again, I'll probably just take this and leave these two, just because it's yeah, I'm gonna sick of carrying stuff around already. But yeah, so that's I kind of use this as a mixer rather than like a hardware mixer. So obviously you have your channels, and then map, say, this to filter, and maybe that to reverb and delay. But then also, can't remember if I have it set up on this project, but I can use these as loopers. So yeah, sorry, I think the first one of these will be sends to the looper. So if I wanted to, I can basically loop any of these. So then add an extra layer, then filter, and yeah, do whatever else. So at the moment I had it that I've split the channels so that I can do kind of heavier work on the kicks without like overly compressing the brakes. Though I need to kind of work more on my processing. So say for the kick there's an EQ, because if you have, say, reverb, the other frequencies kind of leak into it because the reverb is stereo. Bear in mind, I don't really know what I'm doing with most of these. So I have a compressor, a drum bus, 2 drum buses for this one, more compressor, saturator, and EQ. This is all kind of done roughly, but then for the rest of the percussion, you know, the drum bus, glue compressor, a little bit of reverb, flanger, kind of various bits and bobs. Then so for this I had a freak channel, so it's a bit of Valhalla reverb, which I think is great. Yeah, I think it was something like that. But yeah, so that's a serious amount of buzz. Which actually, on that topic, I suppose I should say, I have these yokes are a godsend. Got them cheap on, I think it was Canable. Little ground loop isolator, because especially using like USB and stuff, there's sometimes a serious amount of buzz. Can even hear a bit now, it's still going, but maybe that's just a speaker. So yeah, the plan for the launch control is to, for different settings, have it as, I suppose, like, not supposed to be mapped like that, but have these for channels on and off, maybe levels, but I do tend to just control the levels on the actual synths. So I'm thinking some effects and some sends for the looper, so I can work and especially try and loop this. Because yeah, it's something I used to do more, but I haven't done it in a good while. Got too lost in the synths themselves, so having a limited setup will probably be good for getting me kind of back into kind of the power of Ableton and doing more like hybrid setup where I can run a lot of stuff in Ableton. For me particularly, it's the loopers, which I do always love, because that's kind of where I started. So yeah, I signed them for looping, because yeah, I would have started with just MIDI keyboard and using a pedal for looping. So yeah, I suppose that's kind of my setup. I only hear another night, and I'm heading out, so probably won't get much use of these here, but I'm going to be bringing what I can on the rest of my travels. So it is a pain in the hole trying to move everything, but yeah, this is what I'm going to be working with for the next pretty few months. So yeah, hopefully I can do some work with it and make some good tunes. Cheers, guys.